Welcome, ElShowDeShaun, Temporada 2, Ep 13, Semana 11, NFL football. Welcome back to ElShowDeShaun. This week in the NFL, we have a game in Espanol. Washington Commanders versus the Miami Dolphins. Let's get into the show. Let's go straight into it. As always, we're talking about our sim results for the season, at least last week. So, as we know, Thursday Night Football, it got correct. Went 8-6, pretty good this week. Look, the Panthers losing to the Saints, bit of an upset. Dougie Mills beating the Jags, kind of exciting. The Dolphins beating the Bills, alarming. The Browns losing to the Jets, it's interesting. The Patriots beating the Buccaneers, that's pretty standard. That Bucs team is a bit beat up at the moment, so can't expect a whole lot from there. And then obviously the Rams beating San Francisco, which was likely to be expected. For the rest of it, Sim was good. 57.1% pick rate. Let's go to week 11 of the NFL football, which is what we're all here for, is the simulation predictions. Now, in a crazy turn of events, the sim has gotten Thursday Night Football wrong. It picked the Jets before the season. It thought the Jets was going to be a bit more of a wagon, and they are not a wagon. They've won 2 games. Justin Fields is probably not going to be with the team next season. It's a sad, sad time in the Factory of Sadness 2.0, especially with Cam Scatterboo going down, especially with their wide receiver Malik Neighbors also going down, and now their boy Jackson Dart, he has gone down. At least they might get a high draft pick. Their head coach has been fired. Factory of sadness, man. Factory of sadness. You get that glimmer of hope. Dashed. But that's okay. Patriots are a wagon. They took out the Jets at home. No surprise there. Alright, coming up in 4 hours in Madrid, the Washington Commanders are going into the new home of the Dolphins. That's right. Each team, or at least each destination, is going to have a team affiliated with them. We've known about this for a long time. Don't act surprised. London is the Jags' home. Madrid is apparently going to be the home of the Miami Dolphins. So hopefully they can put up a good game. The sim has picked the Washington Commanders. I myself am going with the Dolphins. We'll talk about injuries and everything more in depth in the next section. But I'm going with the Dolphins here myself to win the game. Quick note. I know I said we're talking about the injuries in the next section, but for you to know, if you're not going to watch the against the spread section, Jaden Daniels is out. Marcus Mariota is playing in that one. Alright, next up, the sim has chosen the Carolina Panthers against the Atlanta Falcons. I am also going with the Panthers here. This again is based off injuries. But we're going on to the next thing, and we've got the Buffalo Bills at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I, for some reason, am going with the Bucs. Don't know why. I just think they're a gritty team. I think they can run the ball against this Bills defense that cannot stop the run. Devontae Achane went for a goddamn buttload of yards last week. So the sim has picked the Bills. Look, Bills are likely going to win, but I'm going with the Bucs here, and that's the end of that. Next game, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers going into Jacksonville to take on Trevor Lawrence in a slightly warmer situation than you would see around the NFL. I've got the Chargers here. The Sim's got the Chargers here. I'm not going to finish off that whole quip because I did get burnt last week by talking about the Bills in that fashion. So I think that the Chargers here can hold out and get a W. They are 7-3. The Jacksonville Jags are 5-4. I think the Jags are going to slip a little bit. I do believe their boy, their number one draft pick, Travis Hunter, my bad. Travis Hunter is injured. He's pulled his LCL, or he's torn it, so he is out for the season. That's unfortunate for this Jackson Jaguars team. We're going with the LA Chargers. Next up, we've got a divisional game. Chicago Bears going into Minnesota, the cold place, to take on the Vikings, the JJ McCartney Vikings. Now, the Sim has picked the Vikings. I myself am going with the Bears. I think the Bears win this game. JJ McCartney has not got it figured out yet. He's got two insane receivers. He's got a great tight end. He's got a great running game with him. He just needs to figure it out. Look, he's a little bit inaccurate. Josh Allen was a little bit inaccurate at the start of his career. Things will turn up for JJ McCartney and the Minnesota Vikings. And we know that Kevin O'Connell is a QB whisperer, so everything is going to be fine. Just not this week. Chicago Bears pulling out a big dub. Ben Johnson area. Here we are. Next, we've got the Green Bay Packers. That's right. Going into New York, the factory of sadness, to take on the New York Giants. This is a rough game. This is a real rough game. This Packers schedule that's ahead of them is quite a rough schedule, if I'm being 100% honest. I think it's hard. They've got the Giants this week. They've got the Vikings the next week. They get the Lions, then the Bears at home in Green Bay. They've got the Bears. Then they've got the Broncos in Denver. They've got the Bears in Chicago. They got the Ravens at home. And then they go into Minnesota to take on the Vikings again. That doesn't seem like the nicest situation. A lot of divisional games. And then you've got the Broncos. And then you've got the Rams. And this week you've got a New York Giants team who is ready to cash in on an interim head coaching bump. Plus, they've got the absolutely electric Jameis Winston, who could go for 500 yards and 7 touchdowns. Or he could go for 143 yards and 3 picks. It could go either way. The scary thing is, I know he's been with them all season. He'll understand the playbook. There is a new head coach. Players want to play for the new interim head coach. They want to bust out. They want to ball. Jackson Dart is out. They want to prove that they are not the reason the team is losing. A lot of these players probably want to stay Giants players. I know that's hard to say, but let's think about it. You've got Jackson Dart, the future of the franchise. You've got Cam Scadaboo. Absolutely electric running back. They were winning games when those two were healthy. You've got Malik Neighbors. He's going to be coming off injury next season. You've got Thibodeau on the defensive side. You've got a bunch of other names that I don't know, but it's a team that is ready to win. A lot of these players are probably going to want to stay with the team, so they're going to be playing their butts off this week with the head coach bump and the Jameis Winston effect. And again, it is dangerous because yes, he knows the playbook, but there might be situations where You know, the Packers might be shutting them down in some sense. And Jameis says, hey man, I know we're running this play, but these guys keep doing this. Can you hit the middle, please? Boom. You know, just shit like that. Just shit like that can really burn the Packers this week. So it is a scary game for them. I have got the Packers picked here. But the Giants are in my favorite dog section. Anyway, moving on. That took too long. Now we've got the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow is back to practicing. He's running around. He's looking good. He should be back soon. But we've got old man Joe Flacco, running the team here in the rematch against the Steelers. Now, last time these guys met, Joe Flacco versus the Aaron Rodgers Steelers. The Bengals won that game. I've got the Bengals again. I'm also going with the Bengals here. Now, don't care what you say. This team can score. This team can get scored on. I would take the over here. We're going to talk about that a bit later. I am going with the Bengals, even though the sim has picked the Steelers. The Steelers thought the Sims thought the Steelers were going to be a bit better than they are, and honestly, I think a lot of people did. A couple of people out for the Steelers as well. Anyways, moving on to the next game, we've got Houston versus the Titans. Sims picked the Houston Texans in this divisional game. I'm also picking the Texans here, just to straight up win the game. Next, we've got another divisional game. Wow. We've got Panthers, Falcons. We had Jets, Pats. We got Bears, Vikings. We got Bengals, Steelers, Houston versus Titans, and now we've got the Niners versus the Cardinals. A jam-packed divisional set. And basically the next 3 games are also divisional games. Holy moly. San Francisco 49ers with Brock Purdy at the helm. Arizona Cardinals rocking Jacoby Brissett. I'm going with the Niners here. It could be a very close game. The spread is only 3.5 points, but I'm still going with the Niners. Brock Purdy to get some points on the board and get some dubs going for this Niners team, who has been able to hold themselves to a 6-4 record with Mac Jones at the helm. Now, we're going to move over to another divisional game here. We have the Seahawks going into LA to versus the Rams. This is going to be an absolutely insane game to watch. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get to watch it as I'll be jobbing it up. Sim has picked the LA Rams. I'm going to pick the Seahawks here. This really could go either way. Both of these teams currently have a record of 7-2, both of them on a 4-win streak as well. Something's got to give. Something has to give. One of the big storylines people are talking about is Cooper Kupp going back to LA, but this time as a Seahawk. Don't think it affects a whole lot, honestly. I don't think this Seahawks team is a greedy team. I do think they like to celebrate their players, but I think they do what they can to win. And if that means not featuring Cooper Kupp as much as the Rams would like to see, or LA fans would like to see, that means they're not going to do it. Okay. Another divisional game. Baltimore Ravens going into Cleveland. I've got the Ravens here. The sim has the Ravens here. Lamar Jackson is back to being healthy, so this is a winning Baltimore Ravens team. The Cleveland Browns, they're going with Dylan Gabriel. He could be their future. He needs reps. They need to figure it out. I don't know what to say here. I'm going with the Ravens. Next up, we've got another divisional, the last divisional of the week. We've got Kansas City Chiefs going into Denver to take on the Broncos. I believe Kansas City are the favorites here. The sim has picked Kansas City. I am inclined to go with Kansas City, but this Denver Broncos defense is so damn good. Holy hell. I'm going with the Broncos here. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the next section. Then for Sunday Night Football, primetime, we got the Detroit Lions taking on the absolute beast of the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles, sitting at 7-2. Detroit Lions 6-3 right now. The Sim has picked the Eagles. Look, I was tossing up this one for a while. I think it could have gone either way. Big difference here is the amount of injuries that the Lions have. That's right, they are quite busted up right now. So I'm also going with the Sim and picking the Eagles here. Then on Monday Night Football, the final game of Week 11, Dallas Cowboys go in to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Raiders are 2-7. Dallas Cowboys are 3-5-1. That does not reflect their capabilities as an offensive unit. Sims picked the Raiders here. I'm surprised about that, but I'm going with the Cowboys. Alright, on by this week, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, and we've got the New Orleans Saints. The Sim is currently at 8-3 on Thursday Night Football, season record of 83-66 with a pick rate of 55.7%. That's right, better than some of the analysts out there. Anyways, let's move on to the Against the Spread section. So this is the first part of the betting sections of the show. Let's quickly go over this. Washington Commanders going into Miami. Miami getting 2.5 points here. Again, I did mention that Jaden Daniels is injured. They have a slew of players out, including Traylon Burks, a wide receiver, and Terry McLaurin, a wide receiver. It's a rough one. It's a rough one. You could probably get Luke McCaffrey for his over on receptions or yardage, something like that. But I am going with the Miami Dolphins here at the -2.5. The next game of this week is that divisional matchup of the Carolina Panthers versus the Atlanta Falcons. 5-5 versus 3-6. I'm going with the Panthers here. They are just a more healthy team right now. Falcons have a guard, defensive line, edge, linebacker, 2 linebackers, and a cornerback all out. And then they've got a large set of players who are actually questionable, which means if they get banged up in the game, they could also end up going out early. So I'm going with the Carolina Panthers here at the +3.5 points. Next up, a couple of juggernauts, both at 6-3. Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Buffalo Bills. I've got the Buccaneers here with the +6.5 points. I think they can keep it close. I think they can win. They do have Bucky Irving still out. Chris Godwin is also out. Mike Evans is out for the season on IR. Outside linebackers are also out on the Buccaneers. For the Bills, it's only tight end Dalton Kincaid and a defensive tackle out. Look, I still think it's going to be a close game. The Bills have not proven that they can stop the run, and I've got a nice prop bet in the Millie bet this week that relates to that. But again, I'm going with the Buccaneers, so let's move on. So, LA Chargers going into Jacksonville, 7-3 Chargers versus the 5-4 Jacksonville Jags, who have been surprising a lot of teams. I'm going with the Chargers here at -2.5. Again, I did say that Travis Hunter is injured with that LCL. They have 2 tight ends out, so they can't really go big on the offensive line. They've got an offensive tackle who is also out and a cornerback. They're busted up. I don't see any players out really for the Chargers outside of anybody on IR. So yeah, I think the Chargers take it here. They move on to 8-3, and now we've got our next our third divisional game for the week, the Chicago Bears versus the Minnesota Vikings. Again, I have stated that I have the Bears. I do have them at 2.5 points. I think they win this game. They don't really have any too many key injuries out. Their key pieces are in the game. And for the Vikings, their center Ryan Kelly and defensive end Jonathan Grenard are both out. I think the Chicago Bears take this one. Alright. Green Bay Packers versus the New York Giants. I've got the Giants here at the plus 7.5 points. Out for the Packers is Nate Hobbs. Doubtful is kicker Brandon McManus. But the Green Bay Packers actually have 2 kickers on the roster. They have a rookie, Lucas Havashik. He has gone 4 for 4 this season for the field goals. I think they should kind of stick with him until Brandon McManus is healthy, because he has been dealing with an injury for the past 4-ish weeks, and he has missed quite a few kicks in that time. So I think they need to just sit him until he gets better. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, is questionable, and Savion Williams. Lucas Van Ness is also questionable. I think if he plays, he'll probably be on a snap count. Look, Lucas Van Ness has not had a lot of playtime for the Packers, but he can make an impact when he's on the field. So hopefully he just gets better, doesn't injure himself more this week. Now, Matthew Golden will hopefully have to start showing up soon. Jaden Reed might be back this week, which is very exciting, as he led the team in receptions last year. He's a massive piece to this offense, especially with Tucker Kraft being out. They're going to need a spark, so the running game needs to pick it up. That's one. And they need to, get shit going in the air, because right now this soft coverage that's being played against them in the last 2 weeks has stifled them. And this is a problem from last season, where Matt LaFleur would just complain about this shell zone coverage that he just couldn't figure out how to beat, which is very, very frustrating when your head coach is saying that, who's also an offensively minded coach, so he should have all the answers. Anyway, out for the Giants, we've got Jackson Dart, we've got Darius Slayton, we've got an offensive lineman, defensive line, Chauncey Golston, and we've also got an outside linebacker, Thibodeau, all out. Again, on injured reserve, we have 2 massive weapons. We've got Cam Scatterboo, and we've got Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, both on IR, so they are obviously out of the game. Jackson Dart does have a concussion. Again, this is a interim head coach bump game, so be wary of the Giants. And again, they do have that electric Jameis Winston starting this week, so watch out. This is not a Russell Wilson. This is a Jameis Winston. Whew. Electric. Okay, next divisional game, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals going into Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Joe Burrow is out. I did state that he's been practicing lately, so he should be in, if not next week, then the week after. I'm not a doctor, but he looked pretty good jogging around. Bengals really needs to sort out their O-line if they want Joe Burrow to be their quarterback for the future, because otherwise he's going to die. He will die, and they will need to figure out a new quarterback. He gets his ass beat when he's on the field. They need to figure shit out. Now, I've got the Bengals here, 5.5 points. I think that is a lot. This game is probably going to be over 80 points in total. I would probably couple that with possibly the Seahawks and Rams also being over 80 points. That'll net you a nice little bit of money. Both teams just need to score 40 points, and it's possible in both of those games that all 4 teams can score 40 points. Either way, I've got the Bengals here. Alex Highsmith is out for the Steelers. They also have another linebacker out and a cornerback. This team has not been tackling well. I've got a T. Higgins prop bet. I've got the Bengals here. Joe Flacco, might throw for 500 yards in this game. You never know. You really never know. This game is going to be a high-scoring affair, though. And to support that, I need to say that the Bengals are a historically bad defense. Yeah, they're terrible. They're actually terrible. Trey Hendrickson, sack king from last season, is also out. Hell, both teams might score 50 points. Shit. Anyway, moving on to the next divisional game. Kind of getting sick of saying that. Houston Texans, who are high off a win last week. Dougie Mills stealing a fourth quarter W and running it into the end zone himself, going into Tennessee to take on the Titans, who are out a running back and a wide receiver. And Calvin Ridley is also injured. Look, rookie quarterback, top 3 defense. You know, Dougie Mills being electric, something's got to give here. I think the Texans take this one. I do have Texans at -5.5 points. It's very likely that Cam Ward just gets kind of destroyed this week. It's unfortunate. Anyway, moving on. Another divisional game. NFC South. NFC West, I'm sorry. We've got the San Francisco 49ers going into Arizona. The Cardinals have a lot of players injured. Marvin Harrison Jr., guard, corner, linebacker, cornerback, safety, all out. I've got the Niners here, -3.5 points. Again, Brock Purdy is back. The team is fairly healthy. I think Fred Warner might be back on the field. There's nothing here about him being questionable. So yeah, again, Brock Purdy, even though he didn't have that turf toe, I think it was, he's looking good. I've got the San Francisco 49ers here, trying to get back on track in that extremely competitive division with the Seahawks and the Rams right above them at 7-2. And talking about those two teams, they're the next game. We've got the Seattle Seahawks going into LA to take on the Chargers. Both teams look fairly healthy, very little outs, very little questionables. LA Rams the favorite here at home with the 3.5 points. I'm going with the Seahawks. I think they surprise everybody. They've been kind of overtly dominating, but nobody's been talking about them. I think they beat the Rams here, and they make their stamp, and then we start hearing a lot more about this Seattle Seahawks team. But yeah, Sam Darnold is on one. Jackson Smith-Njigba is on one. That being said, Matt Stafford is on one. Sheesh. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Oh my god, I could go on for days. This is a tight one. This really should be a pick'em. This really should be a pick'em. But again, I'm with the Seahawks here. Second last divisional game for the week. We've got the Baltimore Ravens at 4-5 going into Cleveland to take on the Browns. Ravens should be favored to take the division here, so we're expecting them to win. Justice Hill, running back, is out. Rashad Bateman is also out. Browns are going to be the Browns. Not much to say. Again, Lamar Jackson led Baltimore Ravens just win. I've got the Ravens here, 7.5 points. It could be a close game. You know, this could be a 13-10 game. You never know. But I've still got the Ravens to win, and I'll take them at 7.5 points. Final divisional game for this week. Moving towards the end of Sunday, we've got Kansas City Chiefs at 5-4 against the Denver Broncos, who are hot on a win streak at 8-2, kicking the AFC West's absolute butt in record right now. You know. I don't need to call out the names, but you know who on this Broncos team. They do have a couple of players out. J.K. Dobbins, running back, tight end. Nate Adkins, defensive linebacker and cornerback. Patrick Surtain are out. The Chiefs only have running back Isaiah Pacheco out. Look, I've got the Broncos here. 3.5 points. Not the favorite. Sure, their offense is not as high-powered. The Kansas City Chiefs can piece it together a lot better, but this Denver Broncos defense is just too good. It is just too freaking good. Even if the Broncos win by kicking 4 field goals and holding the Chiefs to 2 field goals, it could be a really low-scoring affair. Honestly, never know what's going to happen. I do have the Denver Broncos winning this game, and I do have them at the plus points. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, we've got the two juggernauts of the NFC, the Detroit Lions, who are quite beat up at the moment at 6-3, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who have just come off a very, very grimy win against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau to put themselves at 7-2. Look, I'm not going to read out all the names for the Lions. There's a absolute paragraph here of outs and doubtfuls for the Eagles. The only questionable is Willie Lampkin. He's an out. He's an offensive lineman. Look, I've got the Eagles here. Again, I thought this could go either way. The running backs are a key position for the Detroit Lions and their run game. The Eagles are very good at stopping the run. The O-line is healthy for the Detroit Lions. Both running backs are healthy for Detroit Lions. I don't know what to say here. I think Philly grind out a gutsy win again. Or alternatively, the Lions just, drop a sack on the NFC and just blow these guys out by 14 points. Could go either way. I think it's going with the Eagles. They're just more dynamic. They can do it any way that they need to do it. They're a tough football team. This is a game of two extremely tough football teams. Next, the final game, Monday Night Football. Dallas Cowboys 3-5-1, taking on the Las Vegas Raiders at 2-7. It's been absolutely abysmal season for this Raiders team. I don't think the record for the Dallas Cowboys reflects how good they've been. I think they've probably just had some very tough games. They are favored 3.5 here. I am going with the Cowboys as well. This Raiders team needs some serious help. They need to pick something up in the offseason. They need to sort something out. Because whatever they're doing right now is not working. Whatever they've been doing for the last 5 years has not been working. I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, against the spread, last week we did run up a positive score of 8-5. I was at 7-5, hoping that the Packers would win. We lost that game. Should have won that game. Should have won that game. The small caveat was that against the spread I did pick the Eagles, so we got a positive record. Now, we are slowly clawing back. We're at like 44% or something on the season. 64-74, but we're trying to get back. We're trying to get this thing into a positive record before the end of the season. We'll call that a success. Moving on, 2 lines we like. These are the lines that we like. First up, we got our favorite dog section. These are teams that are dogs for this week, and they are my favorites. They can win the game. It's not too far out of the reality for these teams to win the game. So if you're looking to bet on a dog, these are my favorite dogs. We've got the Carolina Panthers against the Atlanta Falcons. I have stated that the Panthers are a healthier team right now, so I think they can win this game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They do have a running back who is out. They do have a running back who is a well-known running back. And then they've got a running back who seems to be getting more yards per carry than the second running back. So we'll see him in our Millie bet. The Bills can't stop the run. The Bills are in a little bit of an array right now. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can take it. They're one of my favorite dogs. Chicago Bears, I've been harping about this all show. They can take out the Minnesota Vikings easily. Then we have the scary New York Giants in the Factory of Sadness 2.0 with the Jameis Winston electricity, with the interim head coach bump against the Packers team who is trying to figure something out. They have not scored 20 points in the last 2 weeks. Cumulatively, it is terrible. Giants are my favorite dogs. The Cincinnati Bengals, again, I think they can beat this Pittsburgh Steelers team going into Pittsburgh, just sweeping them this season. The offensive firepower is there. Neither of these teams have a defense at the moment. But yeah, let's go Joey Flacco. Then we've got the Seattle Seahawks again in a massive shootout in a massively tight divisional game against the Rams. I think the Seahawks can win this. Again, they're understated. They should be overstated. They're absolutely crushing shit right now. One of my favorite dogs. Then we have the Denver Broncos hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs getting 3.5 points on them. Again, this defense is stat. It is an absolutely stat defense. I think they can win this game. Finally, we've got the Detroit Lions. This one, I've told you, it's been a toss-up. It could go either way. I think it's the Eagles, but again, you can't count out these Lions, even if they are injured. Either way, those are my favorite dogs for this week. So if you're looking to bet on some dogs, cherry pick from that list. Let's go. Next, on the right hand side of the screen, these are props that you can throw onto your regular parlays to give them a little beef. And these essentially are the lines we like for week 11. They should say week 11. The graphics team has decided to screw me again, and I wouldn't be surprised if the next slide also says week 10. I do apologize. Graphics team's going to get a whooping. They're going to get a pay doc. They're getting a pay doc. No more $100 an hour. They're getting docked. Until these slides clean up, you're dropping the hammer. Alright. Overs and unders this week. We've got the Panthers at Falcons. I think that will be an under. The under is 41.5 points. Both of these teams can score, but they also can have things look like they're not figured out at all. It's a divisional game. I don't think either team pops off too hard. It's an under 41.5 points game. We've got the Bengals and the Steelers and the Seahawks and the Rams both have a 48.5 point total. I've got both games over. I've already talked about this to great lengths across all of the slides. Again, I love this. Absolutely love this. You could take both of these games probably at over 80 points, 80 or 70 points. Jack it up. Jack it up. Chuck it in its own parlay. Get some money. Next, we've got Chiefs Broncos. I've got the under here again. This defense of the Denver Broncos is just too strong. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they can figure you out on the defense. They can figure you out on the offense. I just think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. 44.5 points. Yeah, I don't think we're getting to there. Those are my favorite overs and unders this week. Next for the prop bets, I've got Devon Achane getting 80+ rush yards against an absolutely beat up Washington Commanders team in Espanol, Madrid. Then we've got Dawson Knox to get over 2.5 receptions. Dalton Kincaid is injured. I think 2.5 receptions is modest. Josh Allen loves using his tight end, so Dawson Knox should see an uptick this week. Next, we've got Cooper Kupp going into LA to visit the home of the Rams with his new team, the Seattle Seahawks. Apparently, they're going to be doing something for him pregame. Look, 2.5 receptions is not a whole lot. Seahawks, I think their second or their third receiver is injured, so Cooper Kupp should see a little more ball. Expect Jackson Smith and Jigma to get at least 100 yards. Just expect it. But Cooper Kupp, 2.5 receptions. I think that's quite easily doable in a full game of football. Next, we've got Brock Purdy to get over 8.5 rushing yards against the Arizona Cardinals. Look, at some point he's going to need to run the ball, and Brock Purdy will run the ball. 8.5 yards is pretty modest for Purdy. If his toe feels good, he can run all he wants. He'll probably run in for a tutty. I wouldn't put that bet on though. 8.5 yards is modest though. Next, we've got Nick Medito to get a sack on Patrick Mahomes this week. I saw some stats last week. Patrick Mahomes was only like blitzed 30% of the time, which is not much, but I think he like made incompletions on like 50% of the times he was pressured, which was not a whole lot. And this Denver Broncos team loves to blitz and pressure. I think Nick Bonito gets home, if not once, possibly twice. Pretty nice bet there. I do like it. I do like it. I like it a lot. All right, next we've got David Montgomery to get 1 touchdown for the Lions. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is normally their guy, but again, this is an extremely physical Philadelphia Eagles team, and I just think even though the Detroit Lions offensive line is one of the best in football, I just think they put David Montgomery in those goal line situations just to get a little bit more weight in there, just to get a little bit more power, just to get that touchdown. I think that's the way they roll this week. I think that's the way they do it. Anyway, guys, those were the lines that we like this week in NFL football. Chuck them in a parlay, build them completely of their own parlay. Do what you want, completely ignore me. I don't care. Next up, we've got our final section, which is our weekly ritual. Is our bets. Again, I did expect this one to say week 10, and you should say week 11. Graphics team's they're gonna hear it from me. There's going to be a pay doc, and there's going to be lashings, there's going to be some whippings. Anyway, let's go on to the 5-game parlay for this week. 5's a nice number. 5's a nice number. Pretty doable in a parlay. This week I've got the Chicago Bears at 2.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. That's just a little bit of a safe gate. Again, they are one of my favorite dogs this week, so I think they can do it. Then I've got the Green Bay Packers money line against the Giants. I think they find a way to win this game. I'm not willing to take them at that minus 7.5 points though. This could be tighter than it needs to be, but Green Bay should win the game. And then we've got the Cincinnati Bengals plus 5.5 points. Again, I think they win this game. Just to be safe, I'm taking them at plus 5.5 points here. Who knows? Apparently one end of that Pittsburgh Steelers stadium can be quite difficult to kick at. There's no backing to it, so I think there's a bit more wind that affects the kick. It is a 1 o'clock game, at least it's a midday style game, so I don't know how windy it's going to be during the day, and that might affect things as well. Next, we've got the Arizona Cardinals plus 3.5 points. I don't know why I've got this here, because I said I like the Niners at 3.5 points. Either way, I've got the Arizona Cardinals at 3.5 points, simply because I'm putting money on this one, and they have been holding. They've been, like, you know, these guys are not losing games by lots of points, and it is a divisional. I think they keep it close. Jacoby Brissett is more operational of a quarterback in this system than Kyler Murray, so things are looking up, at least for the rest of the season for Arizona. But hopefully they decide to stick with Brissett. Hopefully he does good for them. Next up, we've got the Baltimore Ravens money line against the Cleveland Browns. I'm not going to say much about this. I don't want to jinx shit. That's my 5-game parlay. Now, finally, the last part of the show is the $1 million parlay. If you're new to the show, and I'm guessing you probably are, first up, hit subscribe. Thank you. Next up, hit like. Again, thank you. And then drop a comment. It can just be a full stop. I don't care. At least let me know you're there. Next, what I want to do is explain the $1 million parlay. I want to become a millionaire, and I want to do it the easy way. So this is a 100,000 to 1 odd bet. Whack these lines in a parlay, put $10 on it, enjoy the football on Sunday, and become a millionaire. Just like that. So this week's $1 million parlay is Justin Herbert to throw 3 passing touchdowns against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got Trevor Lawrence to get an anytime touchdown. We got T. Higgins to pick up 80+ receiving yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've got Pratt Fryermuth to pick up 50+ receiving yards against the Cincinnati Bengals. We've got Sean Tucker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to pick up 100 rushing yards against the Buffalo Bills, who have a very leaky rush defense. And as I stated before, Sean Tucker has more yards per carry in the last 4 games than Rachaad White. So I think Todd Bowles makes the switch this week to Sean Tucker. I think he gets a couple of good runs in when he's called, and then I think they just stick with him. I think he picks up at least 100 rushing yards. Then I've got Dawson Knox again to pick up an anytime touchdown. As I mentioned, Dalton Kincaid is out. Buffalo and Josh Allen love to throw touchdowns to their tight ends, so I think Dawson Knox is able to pick one up this week. Then I've got Davis Mills to get an anytime touchdown against the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans have a pretty alright defense. They could be holding this Texans offense to a little bit. But I think should it come to the goal line, Davis Mills probably gets one, probably gets it in himself. And then finally, I've got Devontae Adams to get an anytime touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks. One thing to mention, when the Rams are in the end zone, Devontae Adams' targets just absolutely spikes. His red zone targets out eclipses Puka Nakua's by a mile, and simply because he can get that separation off the line, because he is an absolute artist at separation. It's something he's built his game on, so they take advantage of that at the goal line and in the red zone. So he picks up quite a lot of touchdowns in those situations, and I've got him to pick up a touchdown this week. Now, one thing I want to mention, the struggles this season with the Texans, particularly with CJ Stroud in at the helm. I don't know. I think Stroud needs to possibly learn to identify defenses. There could be something up with maybe he doesn't really have complete control of calling protections on the offense. For some reason, Davis Mills was able to make a comeback win last week. He's been with the team for multiple seasons, so he knows the offense, and he's probably more comfortable calling protections and things like that. I just wonder if that is an issue right now that the Texans are having with CJ Stroud. Maybe he wants to hold the ball and make plays, whereas Davis Mills is happy to take what's given to him. I don't know. I don't really get to watch the games, which is unfortunate. If I did, I'd be able to give you a much better idea. But again, I think Davis Mills probably picks up a touchdown this week, and I think maybe the Houston Texans start to see a little bit of an uptick. With that being said, Davis Mills has proved me wrong many a time, but this time I think he does it. I think he picks up a touchdown. Either way, guys, that was the Shaun Show, episode 13 of season 2. Hope you enjoy the football. That is coming up in 3.25 hours in Espanol. Washington Commanders versus the Miami Dolphins. Look, enjoy the football, guys. I know I'm going to try and enjoy it as much as I can. I'm going to be listening to an absolutely electric Sunday night football game tomorrow, so that should be a whole lot of fun. Anyway, take care, everybody. Enjoy the games. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the people around you. And go Pack Go.